There are 3 people in this relationship. Me, myself, and Ricardo. Hi peeps, it's Knock.
And Ricardo.
And we are Thinking Cube.
We are Thinking Cube, a podcast created by Knock and Ricardo to talk about our journey into becoming better people.
We will talk about how to improve yourself, how to improve your relationships with your family, your friends, and others.
And just generally talking about how to live a more humanly human life.
In this episode, we're going to talk about, are you living on autopilot? I think first we should talk about what autopilot looks like, because most of the time we don't really know that we're on autopilot, and that's dangerous, right?
Yeah, that's a tricky part about it, right?
Yeah.
So what did it look like for you?
I feel kind of like zombie mode. Like you just kind of doing what you're told and not really asking the question why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. Although I would say, I don't know, zombie mode, you probably think about somebody who's sluggishly just doing things slow and without thinking about them. And I think living in autopilot sometimes can look very fast-paced. From the outside it can look like, oh wow, this person is doing so much, but sometimes a person can be doing so much and they're not even thinking why they're doing those things. I was in college, I was working, I had a relationship, but when I look back, I never really wonder about those things. I never really think them through. I was just doing them because they were presented to me, and because I was living such in autopilot mode, I don't think about my decisions. I just simply follow what's in front of me.
Yeah, I feel it's it's a state of mind that you don't really know where you're going, and you're just kind of doing what's thrown at you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's the thing, right? Because in the world there are a lot of distractions, right? Like you told, it's time to get a job. You don't have money, you get a job. That's it. You don't really think about what kind of job. Do I like this job? Does this job satisfy me and my needs? Does it make me grow as a person or become a better person in any ways, right? You just think it's the next thing, right?
Yeah.
It's the next step.
Yeah.
Does this job open more doors? Things like that. I feel not a lot of people ask this sort of questions, and
I didn't.
That's what puts you in autopilot mode, because you don't ask the questions of what's next. You're not looking at the bigger picture and just kind of looking what's right in front of you.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You don't look ahead.
Yeah.
Right? You think, okay, I need a job and I need to make some money.
I just get the first one.
I just get the first one that I get accepted into.
Yeah.
Right? You're not thinking about your long-term goals, right? What do you want to look like in a year, in 5 years? You're not really thinking about these things, right? And again, it's because you don't focus on those internal questions for yourself.
Yeah, I think also because a lot of the time we don't know where we're going. We don't know the long-term goals.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, sometimes we're just very lost in.
Yeah. And the thing is this, we don't need to plan a detailed plan of where you want to be in 5 years, and exactly it's going to have to be like this. I'm going to have a corner office desk with 10 million friends and making this much money or something.
Yeah.
I feel the important thing is, for me, my long-term goal has always been the feeling of success for myself. I feel I have succeeded on my own term, right?
It could be anything.
Yeah.
But it's more about how do you want to feel in the long term.
Yeah. And I feel these feelings are easier to measure, right? Because my long-term goals has always been feeling free, working in a job that makes me feel free, right? So it doesn't matter what I do as long as I feel free. And I like jobs that are creative, and I like things that are low pressure but high reward, sort of everybody likes that, right?
Yeah.
I don't or even high risk, high reward. I don't mind taking some risk, but the reward is high for the low amount of time that I work, basically.
Yeah. And I think because you've defined it in your head, what you want.
Yeah.
Then you can easily check in with yourself constantly. Like, am I doing this? Like, is this, you know,
Does this
getting
bring
me
me
there?
freedom? You know,
Yeah,
does
this bring me
is this like a
freedom?
creative kind of like
Environment, low
yeah.
pressure, right? Yeah, and I think, you know, I think that would be one of the things that for me I didn't have. For example, I knew I wanted to, you know, do something related to coding and technology like that, but I wasn't really pursuing it too much. I was just doing what was like in front of me, and I was so busy with like everyday things that I never really check in with myself and be like, okay, what type of job do I want to have? How do I want to feel in the future? And because I'm never checking in with myself, because I don't even know how do I want to feel, like, you know, what success feels like for me, then, you know, I just start living in autopilot, just doing what's next until, like, you know, somebody comes along and tells me like, hey, Ricardo, wake up.
Yeah, but like, you know, like, what did you do? You know, tell me, like, you know, what you did and why you think that you live in like autopilot, right?
Yeah,
autopilot mode.
For me, like, the like autopilot mode is just not really being in control of what you do, or at least not feeling like a lot of in control of what you're doing. I, for a long time, I always had like the mentality that I'm not really taking decisions on like who's my friends, the people I'm dating. I just feel like things just falling into my place.
Whoever
into my
interested
plate,
in you did though.
No, I mean, I'm not that easy, you know, but like.
Are you sure?
No, but like, you know, that's literally how I felt, you know, like I don't go out of my way and like try to make friends. It was just like whoever's right there, I'll just start talking to them, and maybe we'll become friends, maybe not. And same thing for like my career goals. In the US, I lived in LA, you know, city of angels, Hollywood, and there is so many opportunities that you could like really
well, everything is happening, right?
Yeah, everything is happening, right? And, you know, I mean, Silicon Valley is like right there, a few miles away, and, you know, and I didn't do anything related to what I want to do. I wasn't chasing any opportunities. You know, during the summers when I would go back, I, you know, just had a lame barista job. Nothing bad with it. I enjoyed it back then, but like it wasn't bringing me closer to that feeling of success that
you envisioned.
That I envision.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, I think that's kind of like what it looks like. In Autopilot, you're not even thinking about your goals, moving towards them. In some cases, I would even feel like out of myself, where I wasn't even there. You know, like I was there, but it felt more like I was just watching myself as opposed to like actually being present in the moment. I think living in Autopilot, like you disconnect from reality a little bit.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Like, kind of like you're just watching a movie of yourself, but you're not actually experiencing anything that's happening right in front of you, right? And not really in the moment. You just kind of like just let the movie run, let the show goes, but you just kind of not really, just taking a back seat and just let it ride.
Yeah,
right?
you're just an spectator, you know.
Yeah.
You're not driving the car there.
Yeah, you're just a passenger.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you know what I think? I don't remember like the 0.1% rule or something like that. I don't know. Like if every day you do like one thing to like get towards your goal, you know, then like, you know, one thing sounds like really little, right? You do like 0.1% to reach your goal, right? You like you said, okay, my goal is to become fit, and you know, like every day you just do 0.1%, but like by the time that the time has passed, it become like a lot, and you like reach your goal without even like noticing. So I think that's like a really interesting thing, right? You just need to, you know, like live your goal, live the way that you want to live in like 10 years, 5 years, you know, 5 months, whatever, today, and you know, in 5 months, like 5 years, 10 years, you will be the person that you want to be, just by simply starting today and living that dream like today, you know. So then it will not become a dream anymore, right? Like, for example, I feel like if you wanted to work with Google, right, today you find a job as a coder. You know, you find like a silly gig making a shitty website for some weirdos for $20, you know. You know.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. If we're like going with this like 1% mentality, right, it means that you constantly do something, but not in a routinely type of way. You know, it's about putting 1%, and then not just putting that same 1% in there again, right? It's about like putting the next 1%.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's about like cumulative progress. Cumulative progress, right? It's about challenging yourself,
and like
you know,
just
go
stepping,
above,
stepping up the ladder every day, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, I can relate to that so much because I live really emotionally. So my goals often like emotional goals more than like actual like, oh, I need to be here, I need to have this, I need to have that, you know? Like I said, freedom is the most important thing on my plate, right?
And like putting yourself in a box into like what exactly you're gonna do, it's limiting even.
Yeah, it's limiting. So I think that we need to like set goals, like emotional goals, rather than actual you know, like a box goal that I have to achieve like this job and like that thing, you know. I think the thing is like maybe like some people will find like a job that is exactly the fitting to their emotional goal, which is great, right? But for me, I wasn't sure what it was because, you know, like freedom was, you know, the most important thing for me. And I knew there was some like factors to it that made sense. Like I didn't want to have a boss, right? So if I didn't have a boss, then I would either like be my own boss or I freelance or something like that. And I already knew that's what I want to do, right? And if I had a boss, they have to be somebody who I respect, you know, like not just anybody with, you know, any degree or anything like that. They need to be somebody with like qualities that I can look up to and I can grow with that person.
Someone you can learn from.
Yeah. So, you know, I feel like this reflects on my work in college because I got a job in the Office of Events in Colorado.
Yeah.
And first, I had this boss who was, you know, amazing. You know, I think that she was somebody who I really can learn from. She was so detailed and careful with information, and her way of thinking was very smart in like event planning. But when she quit, I was also like quit. You know, I didn't want to continue working there, you know.
Okay.
After she quit, I just kind of worked there for the money, and then it was kind of like the end of the school year already, and I wasn't coming back to college. So I just kind of like finished like that school year, but it wasn't the same passion as when she was there because I know that I wanted to learn from her, but now that she was gone, like my next boss wasn't somebody I was looking up to. So I just kind of finished my work there for the end of the year, and then, you know, just kind of like I kind of finished my work there for the end of the year and kind of just focus on like the next thing, which is freedom, you know, the next freedom. So I feel like it's important to set these goals and actually like build on it, you know, and see, kind of like reflect back, like what am I doing now? Like, is it reflecting that goal?
Like always like check in.
Always check in because everything is always changing, right? Nothing like stays the same forever.
Right.
You know, your job will not stay the same amount.
No, your boss is gonna like quit one day and like the job that you thought like, oh, it's so good in here. I love my boss. Not just that. Like you, like your first day you get to your job, you're not gonna be the same amount of expertise as a day like the 100th day, right? The 1 year mark, the 2 years mark. You know, like you stay at this job for like 2 years and you stay doing the same thing, and you know you get good at it, but as time passed, you need to get good at another thing, like the next level up, right? Yeah.
So even if nothing changed externally, like you change, you see?
Oh, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah.
So you know, like,
keep on building up.
You need to keep checking like every day before it like slipped out of your hands, you know? Yeah.
Until that 0.01% adds up to like 100% and you're happy and you fulfill your goals and...
I feel like also if you don't check in with yourself, sometimes you will go the wrong way, you know? Because I feel like there was a part of my like college experience that I felt was kind of not aligned to my goals, right? I feel like I actually didn't want to go to college because I felt like it was limiting for me. But because I wasn't sure what I was going to do and I was scared. So I chose to go to college anyway. And because of that fear and that kind of moment of like not really checking in with myself and just letting things like run its own course, right? And I think that sometimes it's necessary because I'm still grateful with my college experience so that I know that wasn't the path for me, and it opens like doors that for me to be here right now, you know.
Yeah.
But I just want to describe that like second, like that moment of like not really sure and not really like thinking about my own goals, letting things kind of like run its own course in a way that is limiting for me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that decision, my road like
It's skewed. It went the other way.
it went the wrong way, you know. It went the wrong way, which ended up being nice, obviously. And I'm not saying that I regret the decision, but you know, like I feel like in other people's cases, it actually can go in like much worse way.
Yeah.
In a way that they will be more, you know, like become worse off, you know.
Yeah, you know, I think that was me. I think my path went very differently from what I had envisioned. At first I thought I was going to be this man who's sure of himself, who's kind, who pursues his goals. You know, I thought it would be a lot different to what had actually happened. But because I wasn't thinking and checking in with myself on how I felt, then I was just saying yes to whatever was in front of me. So I didn't care about who my friends were. You know, I wasn't thinking, oh, do these people make me feel good? Do they align with the emotions and with my goals of what I want to be, you know, of who I want to be? Do I want to be kind? Are these kind people? You know, things like that. So even though I had these goals, I wasn't thinking, I wasn't feeling, I wasn't thinking that the things that I was doing were guiding me there or not. I wasn't thinking how my actions and my decisions, you know, the things I say, the things I do, the people I hang out with, are they guiding me towards my goals? Are they guiding me towards what I envision? And the fact is that I wasn't. I was just following the routine. I was following what's next, just you know, agreeing to what was presented to me. And because of this, I went a totally different path, and I was definitely far from who I wanted to be.
I hear you.
And I think that's what living in autopilot looks like.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, if you live in autopilot, it's a waste of time, you know.
Oof.
And you always go back and you regret, kind of like, you know, I wish, you know, like the key words is like, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I could have done something, you know, I wish, you know, all these things, right?
You feel regret.
You feel like regret, a lot of regret, because you couldn't be better.
Yeah. And one of the things that you lose the most, really, it's time. And like, not to sound corny and like whatever, but like, you know, time is the thing that you won't get back. You know, you can get things back, like you can get your money back, get a house back, get your car back, whatever, you know, you can always recuperate friendships, relationships, but like literally time is gone. Right? So like, I don't know, Nok, I think you talk better about this, about like, you know, like having fear of regret.
Yeah, you know, because I feel like I'm so scared of wasting my life away, not being successful in my own term, right? I'm not talking about like a house, a car, a kid in the suburbs or anything like that. I just want to feel like I did something good. Yeah, I did something with my life, you know, and I didn't just waste it on booze and Netflix, you know, the sort of thing, right? Like,
or working for somebody who you didn't respect and you know, who didn't motivate you.
Yeah, like, and not grow in any way. I want to be able to experience myself. I want to be able to have memories with myself, and want to have troubles with myself, or have fights with myself. I want to cry with myself. I want to laugh with myself, and all this experience, I want to share it with myself. And, you know, live life to, you know, the fullest, and experience the moment there, and not just kind of be on autopilot and you're not really knowing where I'm going. I want to experience all of it with me, and that's why I feel like I feel like I don't need somebody else, because I already have myself. And for me, thinking about a relationship with you, it's more kind of like you're just a companion, you know, a fellow person who also experiencing things with me. You know, there are 3 people in this relationship: me, myself, and Ricardo. Yeah, I can totally relate to what you said. And time is something you cannot get back, right? So it's super corny, but you have to live life to the fullest and cherish every moment and things like that. And wasting it on autopilot mode is, it's
a waste of time.
No, it's like you are to blame, as in like I feel like you are to blame if you waste a moment of your time, basically, because it's very limited. And we think that we'll live until 80, 90 years old, but you never know. Tomorrow something bad can happen. Like tonight something bad can happen. Next moment, right now.
You're listening to this podcast and then you get distracted and you're driving and there's a car in front of you and like, wake up!
Anything bad things can happen like at any moment, right? And if you just don't do the things you want to do right now, you're going to regret it later, right?
Live life with purpose.
And I feel like I don't want to encourage people to live life in like a stuck-up way, as in like super energetic and motivated and like all of this shit all the time, right? I think I'm just kind of encouraging to check back with yourself often.
That's it. That's the big takeaway from this. Just checking with yourself, right?
Always ask yourself, like, are you happy with your current situation? Why are you doing this? What is it contributing to? Does it brings me any closer to happiness and fulfillment and my goal, obviously? And that's the thing, right? Like, just that's it. Just checking with yourself.
Just checking with yourself,
asking yourself questions, right? And that's the only thing I'm encouraging.
Yeah, that's it. It's simple.
It's not about like always being upbeat and motivated and happy, like toxic positivity.
Yeah, toxic positivity. It's not about that. It's not about that.
If you're not okay, then like,
what can I change? What can I do different?
What can you do different? And it's like when you're sick, right? You give yourself medicine. If mentally you're sick, give yourself, mental medicine.
Mental medicine, all right? Just checking with yourself, right? Figure out what's causing you to feel sad, to feel unfulfilled, and then do something about it, right? Being on autopilot mode is just seeing everything happening, not doing anything about it, right? So don't be like me.
Don't be like me. I think that's it. I think we're good, to be honest.
We're good. That was great.
Yeah, that's a short and nice and cool episode.
Hope you learned something, and we're still learning, so
we're
share
still
your
learning.
story so we learn from you too.
Actually, I was thinking like, when I do these podcasts, right, I feel like we're the two weirdest people in the world. Yeah. Because it's just the two of us talking to each other, right?
Yeah.
But this is to talk to the listeners, right? I would love to hear your story. We love to hear your stories. So find us on Instagram at thinking.cube.
At thinking.cube.
Yeah, and we would love to hear your story. Slide into our DM, like tell us, like, do you think you're living on autopilot? What's making you feeling sad or unhappy or unfulfilled? What do you think you want to keep in your life? What's something that you feel like that is something you want to continue, cherish, and work on and grow with and things like that, right? So, slide into our DM. We don't know who's listening to us, but you know us, okay? Find us because we want to connect with you.
Yeah.
Remember,
we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, all the podcast platforms really. So you can find us everywhere, YouTube even. So that was it. That was our episode on Are You Living on Autopilot? Hope you liked it.
And don't forget,
let's get thinking cute.